You're listening to the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. It's fast, fun, free, daily deep dive Bible, and right now we're working on the book of Nehemiah. If you're new, welcome. You can jump in right here, or you can always go back and start at the beginning of any season. The whole podcast is available in an easy-to-use format at thetmbh.com.
I got a friend who's been using this phrase, sideways energy. I really like it. I think it's a great descriptor. I don't know if it's his phrase or not, by the way. Maybe he got it from somewhere. He's never made a claim to it. But sideways energy, as my friend uses it, refers to anything that suddenly demands your attention, that takes you off of a task where you were dialed. You were on time and on target, and you had a vision for it, and you knew what needed to happen, and everything's working. You're in flow, and then boom. Sideways energy. This now demands my attention. I'm no longer accomplishing things. I'm sideways energying. From a practical perspective, maybe this would be like getting a task done. You're building something that needs to get built or repairing something that needs to get built. But then a key tool, for no good reason, breaks. It's irreparable. Now you got to spend the rest of the day going and doing research and shopping to replace the tool so that you can get back to where you were when you were in flow. I suppose that's annoying and irritating, but a more debilitating version of sideways energy, I think, is the relational kind of sideways energy where you feel tension with somebody, maybe even tension with yourself, and you get paralyzed and you feel like you can't move forward because that relational thing is not reconcilable, but everything feels wrong and off, or even not safe and out of sorts and threatened. And there you go. Now you're just stuck for the time being. Sideways energy. I don't know what kind of sideways energy you encounter in the rhythm of what you do with most of your time, but I'm guessing that every single one of you knows exactly what I'm talking about. Likewise, I think Nehemiah knows what we're talking about. I think the builders on the wall in Nehemiah 4 know what we're talking about as a relational tension with the outsiders, the people who are in opposition to rebuilding the wall and getting Jerusalem and the returning exiles back on their feet. That's going to go from snide remarks on the sidelines that are annoying and not fun and mild sideways energy. That's about to escalate right up to serious threat, meaningful problem. We're going to make ourselves such a nuisance that you have to take us seriously and you have to expend sideways energy on us. Now, I'm just telling you, for Nehemiah as a leader, that is a brutal quagmire. It is super hard as an individual to press through that, and it's super hard to motivate a bunch of people to press through that as well. Well, here's what we got cooking. All right, you got Nehemiah 4. Sanballat and his buddies, they were snidely yelling about things at the beginning of Nehemiah 4. Nehemiah counters that, not by attacking them physically or anything, but he's prays that God would do justice in the situation. He believes in the rightness of his cause, as we've discussed. That rightness is well-informed, it's supported, it's bolstered, it's undergirded by all the words of all the prophets. Nehemiah is on strong footing here to imagine that he is on the right track and doing what ought to be done for his people and in the grand redemptive plan. So there's pretty clearly a bad guy here, and there's pretty clearly a good guy here. The bad guys are small and mocking and don't do things. The good guys are taking action and doing things and being redemptive, and that's driving the smaller, complainier people crazy. So verse 7. No, wait, verse 6. I like the way you get the defiant little bit here. So, Nehemiah talking, we rebuilt the wall till all of it reached half its height, for the people worked with all their heart. They are overcoming the mild sideway energy right there. It's driving the other people crazy. Verse 7, now we up the stakes. Here we go. But when Sanballat, Tobiah, the Arabs, the Ammonites, and the men of Ashdod heard that the repairs to Jerusalem's walls had gone ahead and that the gaps were being closed, they were very angry. They all plotted together to come and fight against Jerusalem and stir up trouble against it. What the heck, guys? It's one thing to gripe and whine and be difficult and cause a little bit of strife, gossip, maybe even, some sort of psyop to undermine the unity and the mentality, the mental strength and fortitude of the people. But now you're going to actually show up and attack them? What is your problem? Also, did you notice that the list of people who are mad just got longer? I mean, think about where all of this started when we start running into the tension, right? Okay, we go back here to Nehemiah 2. This is the first time we run into bad guys. It is in verse 10. When Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite official heard about this, they were very much disturbed. Okay, it's two dudes right now. It's not a group of people. It's two guys who are mad. And their anger is going to metastasize into a whole bunch of other people being mad. Fast forward 9 verses to Nehemiah 2:19, the second time we run into the enemies. But when Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite official, and Geshem the Arab heard about it, oh, well, their disease is spread. Now they have 3 people mad from 3 different people groups. Then, of course, chapter 3 is all happy, happy, happy. We get basically half of the build montage accomplished. I think we're to understand that we're about halfway done with the repairs as we go out of 3 and into 4. Some smart people think that 3 covers all of the repairs, and then we backtrack a little bit chronologically and pick up halfway through the repairs in 4. I don't think it really matters very much how you read it. But either way, the list of enemies is getting longer by the time we get to the beginning of the chapter we're in, Nehemiah 4. Verse 1, when Sanballat heard that they were rebuilding the wall, he became angry, and he ridiculed the Jews, and he did so in the presence of his associates and the army of Samaria. Oh, well, it's not just 2 guys or 3 guys or 4 guys hanging out anymore. It's a lot of guys now. And then we get to the verse that we just read, and all of a sudden it's Sanballat, Tobiah, the Arabs, the Ammonites, and the men of Ashdod. Wow, they have managed to whip into a frenzy 5 different people groups who have all become infected with the gossipy thought contagion that started with just 2 guys who were sitting around griping about things. It is amazing how contagious this kind of thinking is. Just 2 little guys with one little idea and one little complaint. It's just the tiniest little thing, but it's expanding and bloating so quickly. Some might say this is like yeast. It's not my idea. I'm taking it. It's from the Bible. It's from the Bible. Jesus in Matthew 13. You remember that? Matthew 13 is the third of the 5 great big speeches of Jesus around which the book of Matthew is constructed. Matthew 13 is the one that has the kingdom parables in it, like the guy who went and sowed seeds on a bunch of different kinds of soil. And there's a little micro parable in here in verse 33 where Jesus says, the kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed into a large amount of flour until it worked through all the dough. Some people think that Jesus is saying this positively about the kingdom. That's how I tend to read it. Other very smart people would say, no, yeast is a metaphor for bad stuff everywhere else in the Bible. So he means something a little different here. Could be, but certainly yeast is used as a metaphor for bad stuff in Galatians 5:9, where Paul says a little yeast works through the whole batch of dough, talking about this thought contagion thing, what gossip and destructive stuff, sin, even in small doses, does when introduced to a community that's vulnerable to it. And not just sin like naughtiness or bad behavior or selfishness, I mean that too, but I think specifically Paul is talking about bad ideas, false teaching, heresy, stuff that is destructive but delectable to the right set of ears. Well, Sanballat found his audience. You go negative, and there will always be an audience for that. You want to go build a following on social media, for example? Pick a thing and be very, very mad about it and just keep posting. The algorithms will find other people who are mad about the same thing, and that yeast will work its way through all that dough very, very quickly. It was the same back then without social media as it is now with social media. And this Sanballat guy is picking up followers. He's picking up subscribers. And what started as a little gripe session has worked through the whole dough into what is shaping up to be a military level opposition, a military level operation to sabotage and destroy and break the will of the people who have so far been cheerfully rebuilding this wall. But again, who are the people who are rebuilding this wall? It's like a perfumer and a guy who works in a gold shop and people who sell flowers and stuff. It's not a bunch of warriors and soldiers. These are people who might not even be very good at rebuilding walls and need a lot of coaching, but the manpower is still welcome. The energy is still welcome. I picture these people learning on the fly. I'm guessing they're not great at making walls. And even more so, I'm guessing they're not very great at fighting with swords and so forth. And now they got serious sideways energy to deal with, because it's not just people who are mad at them, it's people who maybe kind of want to kill them and loot their homes and loot their city. Unsurprisingly, this is going to have a very negative effect on the morale of the people who so far have been chipping in and having a work montage to build things up. But come on, what happens after every montage? Ground gets taken, but the bad guys come back and take ground too, and discouragement can happen even after the montage. So here we are into the discouragement phase, the sideways energy phase, and we'll try to get inside the heads of the people who are starting to panic a little bit and lose their nerve to rebuild this wall in the face of this very violent, very ugly sideways energy. Final thought, it is pretty amazing to me how powerful and effective, deeply negative gossip with a tinge of righteous indignation was all the way back in ancient times, and how that same formula still works so well today, even on the best of us. I'm at my best when I steer clear of that kind of crap, and my most embarrassing stuff in my life has probably happened when I have not steered clear of that crap. It's easy for me to act like I am morally above the bad guys in this passage, immune to what they're getting wrong, but I'm not. And there's a good cautionary tale here. All right, that's plenty. I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour Podcast. Let's do this again soon.